Hello and welcome to another episode of Graham Hughes' PUBCAST.
And we are in a pub. We are in the Griffin near Leeds railway station, and they've very kindly let us do some filming in this, what looks like one of the old railway arches in the station. It's quite a fascinating place. And at the moment, Republic of South Africa are beating Namibia 38-3 in the Rugby World Cup.
It's very confusing that it's RSA because that naturally you think that's going to be Russia.
Or Royal and Sun Alliance.
Something like that, yeah. Anyway, so I don't know if we've got a title for this podcast yet.
I think the title of this podcast should be Boris Johnson should go to jail. Because this morning, he's come under, he's been put forward to the Police Complaints Commission, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Or some such body, due to his involvement with a model when he was Mayor of London. Now, he's been put forward under the Independent Police Standards Authority, I think it is. It's been put there because he was, as Mayor of London, head of the Metropolitan Police, in effect. So he's in a bit of trouble this week, bless him.
Well, it's been one hell of a week. So we filmed our last podcast in the Egg Cafe in Liverpool last Saturday. And today's Saturday, the 28th of September. So we have had this week
quite a momentous week. We've
had the Supreme Court decision come down on Tuesday at 10:30. We had the Lady Hale.
Lady Hale,
a bit of a celeb
with the spider brooch. That's the new fashion amongst us Remainiacs.
11 Supreme Court judges, all of them. There's only 11?
No, there's 12, but they can only have 11 as a maximum.
Oh, right, okay.
To stop a draw.
Glad you're here to fact check me. I was off on my own little tangent.
Yeah, no.
My fake news, so there's 12, but there's only 11 that can sit.
There's a maximum of 11 who can sit on one case. Right. Now, the fact that they got the maximum number to sit on the case was actually... that was big news in itself because, you know, that's how...
Have they all sat before?
One or two times, yeah. I think all 11 sat when Gina Miller brought the previous case against the government, which the government lost again. So it's Gina Miller 2, government 0, and it was that was about making sure that the government actually put Article 50 revocation, the instigation of Article 50, she put it to the government for a vote.
Yeah. So this court case was about the prorogation of Parliament, which is basically when Parliament ends and another Parliament session begins. Normally this takes a few days, but Boris Johnson thought that it'd be a good idea for it to take 5 weeks. Now, the government tried to make out that this wasn't anything to do with Brexit.
Exactly.
This was just a procedural thing, and we were going to have a recess anyway, and lots of...
Jacob Rees-Goebbels actually said at the airport, this is purely procedural.
Now, this is tremendously disingenuous because the fact is that it's not a recess. A recess is it's like half term in school. This is the end of Parliament, and Parliament ends, and so all the acts that are going through Parliament, all the stuff that at the committee stage, first reading, second reading, whatever, all gets thrown away and you have to start again.
And the other thing, in a recess, which Boris Johnson lost a vote later on in the week, he lost it was 8 of 8. He lost the 8th vote that he's put forward to recess Parliament.
I thought it was 7.
No, it was 8. But he's...
I put 7. Because when
I thought it was 7.
Someone shouted, 7-0, Boris.
Well, be it 7 or be it 8, every vote Boris Johnson has tried to get to go his way, he has lost. Although he has won 2, technically, he's lost because he couldn't call the election because he didn't have the required majority.
So he lost?
So he lost, but he did win.
No, he didn't win.
But he lost.
He didn't get enough votes.
The government won the vote.
Yeah, but that's like saying Hillary Clinton won the 2016 presidential election. Technically, she got 3 million more votes, but she still lost.
Yeah, but there we go. Anyway, so... pontification aside, he wanted to recess the Parliament this weekend for the Tory party conference in Manchester, where we're going to be tomorrow.
We're going to be tomorrow in the pouring rain. Have you seen the weather forecast?
Yeah. Can I borrow a hat?
I was leaving the house and it was like, where's the big umbrella?
Yeah.
I can't find it. So I've got this little tiny umbrella.
So he lost the vote to recess it, but if he puts it into recess, Parliamentary select committees can still meet. They can get the panel up and interview people as required. Parliamentary business can go on. He prorogued it, so all of that stopped. The House of Lords stopped everything.
Yes.
Everything, it stopped. Crucially important bills, such as the domestic violence bill, would have been lost.
And the divorce bill, that was going to end divorce proceedings taking 5 years if one person doesn't want to get divorced, which is absolutely bonkers. And all these people, like, steam coming out their ears about, we haven't left, why haven't we left yet? Why haven't we left yet? Oh my God, try getting divorced, mate.
Yeah, it's...
in this country.
It's a nightmare in this country, I understand.
No blame divorce. I think it's disgusting. I think the whole way that it's so easy to get married and so difficult to get divorced, I think it should be the other way round. I think that you should, if you want to get married, you should have to do like one of those, you know, those his mare's questionnaire things where you get asked the same question. What's her favourite colour? What's her favourite flower? You know, I reckon you should have to write down a list of 100 things you love about that other person. And then and only then you can get married. But you're not allowed to lie. You're not allowed to say, I will love you forever and ever and ever.
That's like that scene out.
50% of people who make that vow in front of all their family and friends are lying. Because they get divorced.
Yes, they get divorced.
But they meant it at the time. But that's what politicians say, isn't it?
Well, yes. So, and that's what
it should be. Let's stay together till we don't want to be together anymore.
I think that's a fair enough point.
Anyway,
I don't want to stay together with you, though.
Oh, okay. No. But it should, my point is, it should be a lot easier to get divorced.
So the domestic violence bill and the divorce bill were...
And also, a trade bill.
A trade bill?
There was a trade bill going through that would have stopped the government from offering the NHS to the Americans on a silver platter.
Was there?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah. So he was in New York babbling on about Prometheus having his liver pecked out by an eagle in the United Nations, and you could see people in the United Nations going, is this guy for real? He was waffling on, as he does, and had to come back early to come back to Parliament because within an hour of the judgment being handed down unanimously by 11 judges, Supreme Court judges, who, according to Brexit voters, don't have the laws or the powers because Brussels have taken...
They weren't elected.
And Brussels have taken... We have to answer to the European courts, apparently, according to the Brexit supporters.
But then, I mean, so there was a bit of jubilation over that on Tuesday, and then in quick succession, though, began impeachment proceedings against President Donald Trump, which I guess will have to be another video. This is sticking with Brexit, unfortunately, for this
we could do a video in Manchester tomorrow because more stuff was coming up on the news today as it was coming up to Leeds. So
the Trump story is very interesting because basically what he's done is every political scandal around the world since the 70s has had the suffix "gate" written at the end of it because of Watergate, which was Richard Nixon. Now, Richard Nixon instructed people, very, very inept burglars, to go break into a room at the Watergate Hotel and steal information about what the opposition to the upcoming election.
Really good film about that, isn't there?
All the President's Men.
It was a really good film.
A good pub quiz question.
Wasn't that Robert Redford and little guy?
Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin Hoffman. They were journalists who blew it all open.
They were. Little pub quiz question for you. What's the odd one out from All Quiet on the Western Front, All About Eve, All the King's Men, All the President's Men? Which is the odd one out?
All About Eve.
No, it's All the President's Men. All the others won the Best Picture Oscar.
Oh, go on. So we're full of interesting facts and figures as well as Brexit bullshit.
So, bringing it back to this side of the Atlantic, things then took a turn for the incredibly sinister in Parliament, at which point it was pointed out...
I stopped watching.
It was pointed out to the Prime Minister that his use of terms like surrender, traitors, enemies of the people, collaborators, was putting MPs' lives in danger. And this has particular resonance in the United Kingdom because it was only a few years ago.
3.5 years ago, in fact.
Jo Cox, MP, was round here actually.
She was Keighley or Wakefield. No, not Wakefield. But yes, she was an MP around West Yorkshire.
Yeah.
And she was
Mother of two.
Mother of two.
Young mother of two.
She was assassinated by a white supremacist who shouted Britain first as he shot her in the head and stabbed her something like 19 times. And
she was shot more than once.
Yeah, she was shot several times in the head and stabbed 19 times. So, and we were getting this. I mean, I didn't know Graham at the time of the referendum, but we were getting stuff, and I'm sure Graham was, about being Ramonas straight after the referendum, because it was like, oh, hang on, this has been a bit corrupt and blah blah blah, and all the silly memes about with the baby crying, I want to remain and I love the EU and all that. But it's got really, really sinister now in Parliament, and it started, I think, really getting really serious the moment Bozo Johnson became Prime Minister, because all of a sudden I was hearing John Humphreys, who was finally fucked off from the Today programme, but I was hearing him interviewing Dominic Turnip-Raab, and he started referring to the backstop as the undemocratic and anti-democratic backstop, and it's degenerated rapidly since then.
Yeah. Now, the people are 66 million people in this country. They're not just 17.4 million people who voted for leaving the EU 3 years ago. The only bit of levity this week was the bit where someone called in the Nigel Farage show and said, I voted to Remain, I was a Remainer, and then something happened to me, something monumental.
And he said, what was it? And the guy said, I got kicked in the head by a horse.
I bet Farage was really excited for a few moments, because that would be the first call onto LBC in the last 3 years where it's been someone who voted to Remain
but
and
has now
changed
become
their
a
mind.
Brexit voter.
Yeah, literally, nobody else seems to have done that. Or if they haven't called in. There's been people who've moved the other way.
Yes, plenty of people who've gone from voting for Brexit who now say, we were fed a pack of lies. Which we were. But I mean,
and after Jo Cox was assassinated, they agreed to stop campaigning
for a few days, wasn't it?
On the day that Jo Cox was murdered, the Breaking Point poster was unveiled by Nigel Farage. This poster that was based on a propaganda poster from the Nazi era.
Yes.
A poster that only had brown people on it.
Because they covered up the white people in it with Breaking Point.
Yeah. And the idea being that these brown people were all going to come into our country if we stayed in the EU, something that was a lie. Jo Cox murdered, then people say, let's suspend campaigning. Did Leave.eu suspend campaigning?
No, they carried on. In fact, they actually ramped it up under Aaron Banks' instruction. Interesting point about Nigel Farage, right? Farage said this week, yes, the government should tone down the rhetoric.
Wow, that's rich coming from him.
This is a man who said he was I'm going to don khaki and pick up a rifle and go to the front lines if they stop Brexit. He said that.
The front lines of what? Shooting other British people.
And then yesterday on BBC Politics, I didn't watch it, but I saw the reports. Some far-right extremist nut job, I can't remember his name, said on live television there should be Brexit riots. I don't understand why the Rozzers weren't outside the BBC studios waiting for him.
He didn't say there should be, he said there would be.
No, he said there should be.
There should be?
There should be Brexit riots already. And I don't know why the Rozzers weren't outside the BBC studios where it was filmed, waiting for him to leave, because incitement to riot is a criminal offence in this country.
Well, yeah, you're not supposed to go on Twitter if you make death threats against people. The President of the United States went on Twitter and threatened to drop nuclear bombs on a country. That's threatening to kill people on a mass scale with a man with the power to do so.
Yeah.
he was not banned off Twitter.
But
I
was banned for 12 hours, suggesting that it was a line from Blackadder Goes Forth that Boris Johnson, his immediate resignation and suicide would be preferable, and I was banned for 12 hours on Twitter.
I was banned for a week for basically reiterating what Aaron Banks wrote to Greta Thunberg, which we also need to talk about. She's been in the news this week. Saying basically that he hopes she dies.
He said freak yachting accident, which again is a line from Blackadder Goes Forth, interestingly. He said he hoped there would be a freak yachting accident in August.
Well, he said they do happen.
Yeah.
In that kind of sinister way of like, ha ha ha, wouldn't it be great if this teenager who is trying to get people to listen to the scientists lost her life?
Yeah.
We'll come back to Greta.
We'll come back to Aaron Banks for a second.
Okay.
He was found... the National Crime Agency have stopped all investigations about his dealings during the Brexit referendum.
Because it's legal to take money from a tyrannical regime like Russia and then use it to persuade British people
But most people
to vote against their own interests.
Most people on our side say, okay, we accept it, it's not right, but we accept it. Then
Accept what?
Accept the judgment of the NCA. We just accept it.
They're just interpreting the law.
Yeah.
The law is what's wrong.
But we just said, okay, it's a shame. I'd like to see Aaron Banks in prison with Boris Johnson, with Jacob Rees-Goebbels, with Nigel Farage. But we accept it. But when the judgment came down, was passed by the 11 Supreme Court judges, within minutes, someone had put on Twitter that it shows how much the EU has infiltrated our judiciary. I mean, this is a 74-year-old woman, and if she's playing the long game, she's playing the long game.
Wow, they think we're living in a comic book. It's like the Marvel comic book universe, but for old people who are a bit.
What gets me is some of these aren't really old. Some of these are.
Yeah, but the majority are older. I mean, I get a lot of stick for being ageist, but just look. The majority of people who voted for Brexit are older. Yeah. That's it. Nobody who was born this century voted for Brexit. Nobody. Not a single person who weren't allowed to.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
But anyway, so I was just going to say about Boris Johnson, and we're going to move on to other things. Boris Johnson responded to someone, a female MP, saying in the House of Commons, you need to tone down your rhetoric because we are receiving death threats. And he responded with the word humbug. Now, this may seem like a tame thing for most people who aren't really, knowledgeable about parliamentary etiquette, but you're not allowed to call someone a liar in Parliament.
But they can call the consultant neurologist a liar.
Yes, because he's not an MP.
Ah, right.
And then they have parliamentary privileges that you can't be done for slander or libel for anything you say in Parliament.
So slander is spoken, libel is written.
Yes.
Correct. Right.
So I guess if you wrote something in Parliament, like, Nigel Farage is a cock, you can't do you for that. Although, actually, I'd love to see that proven in a court of law. I always had this dream that one day, the Nigel Farage or Boris Johnson would have to go to court because somebody called them a cunt. And he tried to say, I'm not. And then all these letters from the nation's school children all came in sacks, one after the other, like Miracle on 34th Street. And they're all written in children's handwriting, Boris Johnson is a cunt.
Right.
Anyway, back to humbug.
We're getting a bit sweary.
Yeah, back to humbug. So basically, he called this female MP a liar.
Yes.
In Parliament.
And it was quite disrespectful because she was referring to the rhetoric and the language in terms of Joe Cox. And, was it Geoffrey Cox, who was the Attorney General, earlier in the day, had been on a little rant as well, which was quite spectacular.
Did you see my Angry Gerbil version of that?
No.
So I found a setting on Adobe Premiere called Angry Gerbil setting. And, obviously Geoffrey Cox has got this amazing voice, sounds like Brian Blessed. If you put the Angry Gerbil setting on, he sounds a lot less punchy. I'll just drop a little clip from it in here.
They don't like to hear Mr. Speaker. They don't like the truth. Twice they have been asked to let the electorate decide upon whether they should continue to sit in their seats, while they block 17.4 million people's votes. This Parliament is a disgrace.
Anyway, so that was that.
All right, that's cool.
But yeah, and then Boris Johnson followed up this amazing display of disrespect and just absolute, what would you call it? Like the lack of honour, lack of dignity,
no integrity
lack of
at
empathy.
all. No empathy at all.
But like this blithe cruelty to someone saying, I'm receiving death threats. Will you please stop using this language? And he basically says, no. And then he goes one further. He says that the best way to remember a woman who died campaigning for Remain, who was killed by a right-wing
white supremacist
Brexiteer, would be to get Brexit done. Which is a bit like saying the best way to honour Anne Frank's memory is to let Hitler win the war.
Yeah, it's staggering. But this is our Prime Minister who is under police investigation again. He's been found to have acted unlawfully, and people on his side...
Whoa. He hasn't been... Oh, yes, he has.
He's been found to have acted unlawfully.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about the model thing.
No, he's under investigation for the model.
So, I don't think she's a model, I think she's an IT entrepreneur.
No, she was a model.
Okay.
Yeah, she was. Trust me.
My girlfriend was a model. Back in the day.
Really?
Yeah.
She's quite an attractive young lady.
She's got a PhD.
Anyway.
In physics. So we're bored of experts. I keep telling her this.
Yeah, we don't need experts. You don't need experts in my job. No. Anyway, so he's been found guilty he's been found to have acted unlawfully.
He lied to the Queen.
Well, no, we can't say that. We cannot say he lied to the Queen.
He did. He lied to the Queen.
No, that's not what they found. They found that he acted unlawfully. Read between the lines and you could say that he and the Privy Council, which is Jacob Rees-Goebbels is the head of the Privy Council, you could say that it's most likely that they lied to the Queen, but nowhere in that judgment did it say he lied to the Queen. So,
but he did lie to the Queen.
Well, I'm not going to... He's saying this, so if you want to sue anyone, it's him.
I'll put it on Twitter. I actually did a poster with liar written on his face.
Well, but I mean, that's proven. I mean, only the week before, he was in a hospital getting berated by a Labour Party activist who... and that shouldn't even be of interest, but the right-wing media made it of interest. But he was getting berated for saying the state of the hospital, you're here for a press opportunity, and in front of the press said, there's no press here. And he said, who are these? So we know he's a liar.
But the interesting thing with that was you had this this kind of doublethink, this 1984 style doublethink, where you've got to try and keep two
my
competing
favourite book of all time
ideas in your and Dominic Cummings as well, by the looks of it.
Dominic Cummings,
he was rooting for Big Brother. So you got these two conflicting ideas in your head at the same time. Also, what is it called? Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
So the idea is that the prorogation of Parliament had nothing to do with Brexit. It was just done as a procedural matter. But the stopping of the prorogation of Parliament is to stop Brexit, to stop the stopping of Brexit.
Yes, so they've... What they've said is it's nothing to do with Brexit, proroguing Parliament, and then after that they said it's going to prevent us getting a Brexit deal. That was his exact words. It will stop us getting a Brexit deal if you don't allow us to prorogue Parliament.
Wow. So Boris Johnson's had a bit of a week, hasn't he?
He's just been proven to be a liar and a cheat and everything that we know of him already. He was going and getting technology lessons off this woman who he'd bunged £100,000 to.
Yeah.
And in fact, he used his influence.
Sorry, was it £100,000 of his own money?
No,
Adam?
no, it
Oh,
wasn't.
it wasn't. Was it £100,000 of your money?
It was the council taxpayers of London's money.
Oh, well.
So
it's only money that you gave to somebody to not do
and
that.
he managed to get her a visa.
For what?
For the UK. Because she was an American. Or she is an American.
Is she?
Yeah.
She's not even a native.
She's not even a native.
He's not even a native either. He was born in America, which is a country where there's people of different coloured skin.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
I think we should send him back.
Send him back, yeah. I just love the fact that one of our royal family is an immigrant.
Yes. Mixed race immigrant.
Mixed raised.
Well, there you go. There's another
immigrant.
Cognitive dissonance for your Daily Mail reader.
Yeah.
I've got to respect her because she's a royal, but also I don't like her because she's mixed race and
living on state welfare.
But again, if the only thing you've got going for you in your entire life is the fact that you were born in a particular location or that your skin is a different colour to someone else's, that's pretty sad.
It is.
That's what we call an accident of birth, darling. Nothing you've achieved yourself. Keep trying.
But, Meghan Markle, I love her. Anyway, so.
Princess Sparkle.
Yes. Anyway, right. So he's been found to have acted unlawfully.
Yes.
So has Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Yes. But in other news, Jeremy Corbyn.
Now, on the LBC today,
yes,
they were talking. Apparently, the SNP now want to support or are open to supporting Jeremy Corbyn in a government of national unity if there's a vote of no confidence in the government this week, which I think is coming this week, isn't it?
Yes.
However, excuse me. I think now we're at a situation where they really do need to consider Corbyn as heading it. I'd like to see Ken Clarke or Harriet Harperson become leader of a government.
Ken Clarke fucked me off this week because he stood up in Parliament instead of just launching into Boris Johnson. He used his first bit of his speech to slag off Jeremy Corbyn, who deserves slagging off. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't the time or the place.
I don't think this is the time or the place to slag off Jeremy Corbyn because I'm trying to get a Labour MP to come on to.
No, I will slag off Jeremy Corbyn because they had the Labour Party conference this week.
So where do Labour stand on this whole issue now?
Well, you see, the Tories are saying they're going to have Brexit no matter what. They're going to just destroy the union and burn the British flag, and their rich friends are going to make loads of fucking money. £8 billion is currently bet against the British economy.
Hedged. Yes, it's
hedged, right?
Yep.
By gamblers, international gamblers. I love them. They're my favourite types of people.
Yep.
They're like gangsters, but who were born into wealth rather than raise it themselves by putting people up against the wall and squeezing them for money. Well, actually, that's probably what they continue to do.
They do.
Anyway, so Jeremy Corbyn.
So what was his what's his stance now? Because I couldn't follow it at all.
So the Tories are like, full on, let's Brexit. And then the Lib Dems, God love them, have said, we are going to stop Brexit if we get elected, because they know that them winning a general election outright is
unlikely.
Okay?
To say the least.
Labour has come in on the side of... You see, Labour's got this huge problem. 20% of its core support want Brexit. 80% don't want Brexit. So
this is its membership.
What they've been doing? No, this is support. This is just support across the board. So what they've been doing really, really hard. What they've been working really. Can I just point out something that the mathematics of democracy in this country? You can have a constituency that voted 58% to leave.
Well, I live in a constituency that voted 67% to leave.
And they can have a Labour MP who represents them.
Yeah.
And of those people who voted to leave, not a single one of them might have voted for that
Really?
Labour MP, for the Labour MP to still get in, because you only need about 40%.
Yeah.
Because the first past the post system, actually, depending on how many people are running, you only need 20% to be an MP. So you're talking about people who are dying on, dying on a cross of their own making. I don't know how you put the last nail in, but whatever. And essentially saying, I've got to represent the people who didn't vote for me, rather than the people who did, right? So you've got this situation now where Labour are saying, right, we don't want to offend the 20%. We don't give a fuck about the 80%, because they really don't give a fuck about us. They make it very clear every time we have a march or a rally that's pro-EU.
Well, because none of them ever turn up.
Well, Tom Watson did.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Jeremy Corbyn's clique. Okay? So they've got the choice. They can either alienate 20% or they can alienate 80%. What do they choose to do, Adam?
They support the 20%.
No.
They choose to alienate the 80%.
No. They chose to alienate 100%.
How?
Literally everybody.
I don't know. I mean, I've lost it with the Labour Party.
So here's the Labour Party idea. And apparently it's very clear and very simple. They are going to want a general election, and if they win that general election, they are going to go to the EU and negotiate a new deal. This could take up to 2 years. After they've negotiated a new deal, they will put that to the people, and they'll have the choice between their deal or remain. And at that point, they will decide. They'll have a special conference to decide whether they should support their own deal that they've negotiated or support remaining in the EU.
So I'm glad we've clarified that.
Yes, but I mean, it's not something that rolls off the tongue while you're standing on someone's doorstep trying to explain what the Labour Party's policy is when it comes to Brexit.
You're going to need a long bus for that one.
And what really boils my piss about all this is the fact that Jeremy Corbyn is just a bloke. He can be replaced by somebody else who doesn't have a -60 approval rating. But minus 60%.
But they would minus. We touched on this in
60%. Boris Johnson has an approval rating of minus around 16.
But we talked about this last week when we were with Cozy, who, thanks to the commenter who was going on about her being a French tart, she's actually German. You muppet. But if that's
not an English speaker writing that, because an English speaker will pick up the accent.
But it just goes to show that if you're a troll or an idiot, right, all you've got left are insults, right? And fatty makes her funny and all that. We're not even,
Although we do insult people on this.
But
podcast.
Some people, yeah.
We're in between the facts. Just the facts, Jack, but then the facts aren't as entertaining to watch in a podcast.
Do you know what is quite entertaining is a few times people have come into here.
Turnover of people sitting next to us.
People have come in and left.
Sit next to us for a few minutes and then they're just walking off.
So
anyway, we're offending everybody
we
today.
We talked about this with Cozy, that one of the first motions in the Labour Party conference was to get rid of the student arm of the Labour Party. And then the next one was they couldn't get rid of Tom Watson. Was it Tom Watson?
Tom Watson.
They couldn't get rid of Tom Watson, so they decided that they were going to get rid of the position of deputy leader. Yeah. And did that fail?
Well, Jeremy Corbyn stepped in and went, guys, can you just tone it down a little bit? And they're like, but Jeremy, we love you and you're amazing and you have to do everything. Jeremy Corbyn, if he runs an election tomorrow, he will only get 150 seats. Fact.
Yes, it's not doing...
Because he has an approval rating of minus 60. He has a worse approval rating than Donald Trump.
Donald Trump isn't standing for election in the UK, though.
I just find that absolutely staggering.
Yeah.
That is staggering. And that is consistent. That's not just one survey. He's been middling around 48, minus 48 all year.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
And some goes up and some goes down. And we're stuck in this situation now where people are like, no, but we have to support Labour no matter what. And I'm like, no, hang on, just give them a new leader and then everyone will vote for them. Literally, everybody, at least 52% of the people who bother to vote will vote for Labour. That's all you need to do. It's just one person.
Leader.
And then someone's writing on my Facebook, we need to change the minds of the people about, we need to not listen to the tabloids and the press and what they right.
Get rid of Jeremy Corbyn.
So, What's easier, Adam? Is it easier to get rid of one person from your business, right? So there's one person in your business who is making your company lose money. Only one of them. There's
Only
just
one. Yeah.
They're making your company lose money. Can you either get rid of that person, or can you spend millions and millions of pounds convincing all of your customers that they're wrong?
Well, it would. You can't just. You can fire people, and it's easier to do that.
No, I'm talking about your customers. You can't fire them.
No, but you want to keep your customers.
Yes.
So you'd get rid of the one
but
person.
this is what has been suggested to me on Facebook, that we need to change the minds of everybody.
In the whole universe?
No, we're just in Britain.
Okay.
Who think that Jeremy Corbyn is a terrible, 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 terrible leader.
You rather emphasise the point there, my friend, but yes.
Thank you.
Had
to be done.
You can, yes, they would be better off getting rid of the one person.
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad glad we cleared that up.
Yeah. I mean, let's say it's a salesman in your company, and he's going out to your customers and saying, you know, we make these sunglasses, so buy 10,000 of these off us a year, but they're really, really shit sunglasses. But you're not going to sell many, are you?
But I watched the Lib Dem conference, and they were like,
so you'd maybe move that person into accounts or something.
We're gonna revolutionise the British Railways, and I was like, yeah, I like the sound of that. And they said, okay, we're gonna stop Brexit if we get elected. I was like, yeah, I like the sound of that. And then they were talking about happiness. It's almost as though someone was at the conference last year suggesting all these things. But anyway, so suggesting that we try and build Britain's happiness back up, because obviously nobody's happy at the moment. The Brexiteers aren't happy, the Remainers aren't happy, nobody's happy at the moment. So we got this situation where, you know, I'm watching the Lib Dem thing on Parliament TV, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's all right. And then I watched the Labour thing, and we've got John McDonnell talking about essentially bringing in universal basic income, which I really fucking agree with.
We should be talking about this in this day and age.
Wow, yes, let's do that, because this is the thing. This is the big thing that separates everybody in this society. If you are born into wealth, you can fuck up as many times as you like.
As Boris Johnson has proven.
And it doesn't matter. You will always float because you have money to back you up. You will never, ever, 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 ever be on the streets. You'll never be destitute.
But
if you are born into nothing, if you have nothing, if you have no money and abusive parents, and you leave home at 16, you can't just set up your own business, and if it fails, oh well. You can set up your own business, but if it fails, you're on the streets.
You're on the streets, likely.
Freezing your arse off under the arches.
Underneath the arches.
Great.
Yes.
This is the big difference. So, if we knew that we were allowing every single British citizen to have the opportunity to pay their rent, keep themselves warm, and keep themselves fed, that's basically all you need. A minimum, a basic income to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to start a business, or to write a book, or to do anything with their lives. It would make us so much more productive and happy. The argument that annoys me the most is when people go, the EU costs us X, Y, Z, whether it's 350 million a week or 200 million a week or whatever it is.
Whatever the figure is, yeah.
That fee isn't to pay a one-legged black lesbian from Nigeria of Irish descent to teach media studies in a polytechnic university. That money is to gain access to a market
of 500 million.
No, it's more than that. Basically, this market, it means free trade with those markets. So there's no WTO taxes, there's no WTO tariffs to pay on anything that we sell to our customers in other countries, right? If we do have, we crash out without a deal, we go to WTO taxes, which means they're, as I keep saying, 9.8% around on cars, 40 to 50% on lamb, 160% on frozen beef carcasses, unlimited on services, which are 80% of our economy. Now, the EU isn't just the EU. it encompasses France and Germany. France, which, by the way, has a bigger GDP of all 54 countries in Africa put together, it also has a bigger GDP than 48 of the 53 Commonwealth countries put together. So do we, by the way. India, which I didn't include on that, has a smaller GDP, and it has a population of 1.33 billion. It has an average wage per day in India is about £4.50.
So the second most populous country on earth.
Yes, has a smaller economy
than France.
Our nearest neighbour. It's got a smaller economy than Germany. It's got a smaller economy than us. So we are getting access to this, to not just the EU, but the EEA, free access to the EEA. We also get free access now to Canada, Japan. Well, not Japan's developing. It's going to it's spread out over about 10 years, I think, until it becomes a full free trade agreement. With Canada, it doesn't include services. It's just goods. But then you've got Singapore and you've got South Korea, which cover at least 31 of the 35 economies, national economies, that the IMF see as advanced,
developed and advanced
in the world.
And it's interesting because there was a woman on LBC yesterday talking to James O'Brien, Doff Cap Tug Forelock fame, and he said that twice yesterday. We're going to do that video where we listen to it and we play beer bingo. But this woman from the Isle of Wight, she was saying we kicked New Zealand to the curb when we joined the common market. Well, she said it was the EU, it was the common market in its day, but hey, we'll not pontificate about her being incorrect. And it's funny she said it at the time because when she said that, because New Zealand, she said, has got more sheep than people. Well, thanks for the fact, love.
Yeah, that's because it's got fuck all people. It's only got a population of 4.7 million.
4.5 million or something, yeah. But agriculture is a big thing, and yes, there was a hit to New Zealand when we did join the common market, but as I was enjoying my New Zealand lamb yesterday for lunch, I was thinking, we still buy lamb from New Zealand, because the third biggest trading partner for New Zealand is the EU.
Hello.
So there we go.
So we get access to this trading
with New Zealand, even though they're not in the EU, because the EU has an agreement with them.
They do. So it's not just the ones that we have the free trade agreements, it's the big comprehensive agreements. We also have agreements with Mercosur, we have agreements with CARICOM, we have agreements with ECOWAS, we have agreements with ASEAN, all these different trade groups around the world. We have agreements with them through the EU. They're all going to go. So our actual membership of the EU gives the UK economy a net gain of around £1.9 billion a week. Now, that seems like a good business investment to me.
Yeah.
Just a business head on to say, I will pay this amount in to join a club. To join a club to get this amount out. And then they say, but then they interfere with our politics, and this is the big the issue for a lot of people. They will anyway. If you have a trade deal with America, effectively that's America interfering with our sovereignty of what we're allowed.
Yeah.
Now, if we have a trade deal with America, there's not going to be a parliament set up to negotiate the trade deals between us. There's not going to be a court set up between us to decide things. It's going to be decided in American courts. I guarantee it.
Because they're the bigger of the two trading partners.
Oh, much bigger. They're 10 times. They are about 6 times bigger than the United Kingdom. So a much bigger population as well. Britain's population is 66 million. America's population is about 320 million. No, it's about 320.
But the other thing people say is we can deal with China. Well, let's put China into perspective, right? It's the most populous nation on the planet. It's 1.7 billion people live there that they know of. I mean, because under the one-child rule, people would sometimes have 2 and just not register the other child.
A lot of girls got killed.
China. Well, that's another discussion.
They're also the execution capital of the world. They execute more people than all the other countries that execute people put together.
But China has a population. It's got the most millionaires and billionaires in one country. But that's on the basis of the huge population.
Yeah, the size of the country.
What the actual GDP per capita is about $8,500
a year.
So there's not many Chinese people who are going to be buying Nissan Jukes produced in Sunderland, or Jaguars produced in Coventry, or Land Rovers produced in Birmingham. There are people who buy them. It's a growing market, but it's not. There's not that many people can afford those cars.
Yeah.
Those goods. Is Burberry a British brand, isn't it? And Burberry bags and jackets are very, very popular in China, but they're only popular with people who can afford them.
And they're also popular as knockoffs, and we don't really have any agreement with China on stopping them from making knockoffs.
Well, copyright law in China, I worked in China, and you could see like cars going past you that looked like a BMW X5, that looked like a Mini. But one of my Chinese inspectors once said to me, he said, copyright, that gives us the right to copy.
I like it. I remember being on the way from Shanghai down the coast, and I stopped at a little fast food place, and it was the McDonald's W the other way up. And it was called McWrongs. I was like, okay, yeah, fair enough. I'd like a wrong burger, please. So this week we've had the High Court judgment, the Supreme Court judgment. We've had Trump being impeached. We've had Jeremy Corbyn at the Labour Party conference. I just want to mention this. They had a show of hands whether they should show support for Remain or keeping a neutral position. It was about 50-50, and they went, should we have a paper vote so we know? And also, this is all what people can see. So it's all like, oh, you're not supporting our leader then. You're not supporting, you know. So people voted, and instead of it being a secret ballot, they went, no. And someone came over and said, listen, I thought that it was for Remain, but you know, the woman who's the unelected head person here, she says that it's to do whatever Jeremy Corbyn wants, and so they went, okay, well, let's do what Jeremy Corbyn wants. And that happened this week. Also, what happened this week is Greta Thunberg addressed the UN with one of the most impassioned and brilliant speeches in history. That's something that will go. It will
go down in history.
It will go down in history along with Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech.
It will go down in history.
The Gettysburg Address. This is something where we will not forget. Forgive you.
Not because it is easy, but because it is hard.
Yeah, we will not forgive you. And all of the abuse that she's got from fat old middle-aged men on their Twitter accounts going, how dare she, who is she? She's not claiming to be an expert. She's not claiming to know something that other people don't. She's not an inspirational, spiritual guru. She is just saying, listen to the scientists. Yes. And you can't argue with that. So I tell you what, you know, if you can't argue with someone, just insult them.
And that's what we get on
just
here.
Just bully a 16-year-old girl.
Did you see the look on her face as Donald Trump walked past her?
Perfect.
Oh, that's how I feel about Donald Trump, Bozo Johnson, and Nigel Farage, right? And it's quite interesting because I've got a friend, Carol, in Dallas, and I remember when Donald Trump got elected, she said, I said, do you know what, and she can't stand Donald Trump, and neither can her kids, but Carol will remember this. I said, Carol, do you know what Trump means in British slang? So I explained that to her. And she told me when Johnson became Prime Minister what Johnson means in American slang. So we've got Prime Minister Cock, we've got President Fart, and that's really quite depressing if you think about it, isn't it? And neither of them are listening to experts.
So we're going to have to wrap this up soon, but I just want to talk a little bit about, so we had this fallout from the week. We had a Prime Minister stand up and say to a woman who had received death threats that she was lying. Mm-hmm. And then we had loads of people who call up on the radio the next day to support the man who did that. Because he wants Brexit. Because that's more important than dignity. That's more important than the future of the United Kingdom as a thing. Because don't forget, Scotland's going to leave. They're not going to stick around to see the full horror of no deal. They read Operation Yellowhammer and went, yeah, no thanks, guys. Northern Ireland will be pleading with the Republic of Ireland to reunify the island, but to be honest with you, the Republic of Ireland, this isn't discussed enough. I've got to be like, do we really want to take you? I mean, no offence, but you do cost Britain a lot of money.
Yeah.
And you keep arguing with yourselves over whether the blood of the Eucharist is actual blood or whether it's just symbolic of blood.
So they discussed transubstantiation, is it?
Transubstantiation. That was the big schism in the church that has led to the deaths of millions. Because it's a very important thing that you need to. And the guy who owned Wrightbus, who made Boris's buses in London, has gone bust this week, and he told all those people to vote for Brexit. And then what happened was the parts that you need to assemble your bus all got more expensive because
the pound tanked.
Because the pound tanked and lost 27% of its value. The pound is down against the Angolan kwanza. The pound is down against the Guatemalan quetzal. The pound is down against the Vietnamese dong.
The pound has been
Uzbek sum.
The pound has been...
Polish zloty. I could keep doing this all day.
I'm going to slap him in a minute. You know, when people go on about interrupting, I'm going to slap him.
The Somaliland shilling.
Right, so the pound has been the worst performing economy over the last 12 months.
Well, currency.
Well, yeah, it's been the worst performing currency over the last 12 months.
Yeah.
So, what does that tell you? But when Boris Johnson was found to have been acting unlawfully, the pound rallied.
No! Isn't that mad that every time he loses a vote in Parliament, the pound goes up
in value, so that gives you some idea.
Which is unfortunate for the disaster capitalists out there.
So, right, my friend.
Yes.
We're in Manchester tomorrow.
We are.
And we're doing a little talk on stage.
We are.
Okay, so we will be doing a pubcast, but not in a pub. Today we are in a pub.
Actually, no, we can do a pub tomorrow.
No, we'll probably do a pubcast tomorrow afterwards as well. But
it's going to pour down with rain.
Bring a change of clothes.
Bring a big umbrella.
All right.
We're meeting at Whitworth Park at 2 p.m. and then we're going to march along Oxford Road, hang a left, go past the G-Mex, and then over to Castlefield Bowl, where we're having a rally at 4 p.m, which is going to be hosted by Mitch Benn, who's one of the people who's been on one of my podcasts in Liverpool. And he's going to be playing his guitar, and then we're going to have speakers from across the political spectrum.
But not Jeremy Corbyn.
But not Jeremy Corbyn, no, because he doesn't support us in any way, shape or form, and I'm sure he will take the time out to tweet that he's doing something much more important, like, I don't know, attending to his radishes in his art. The point is that this week has been absolutely tumultuous.
We have had an unprecedented week, and every time we do one of these videos, we think it can't go on, it can't get any worse, and then it gets a whole lot worse.
Well, summing up this week, we've had the promulgation of Parliament declared illegal. Unlawful. Is that different from illegal?
I'm going to say unlawful.
Okay, we've had Donald Trump impeachment commencing. We've had Greta Thunberg addressing the UN, very, very strident measure. We've also had something we didn't touch on last week was the strike for climate change, which was last week, where millions of children around the world all said, listen guys, can you stop fucking up the planet, because we have to live in it when you're dead. We've also had Boris Johnson basically telling a woman who has received death threats that she's talking bollocks to her face on television. like a twat. And we've also had the revelation that Boris Johnson gave £100,000 of taxpayers' money to his mistress, who he was fucking.
Who was giving him technology lessons.
It's a bit like when Trump cheated on his wife, who was pregnant at the time, with a porn star who reminded him of his daughter. And I just want to stop here and just go, if you know anyone who calls themselves a Christian, you might want to say to them, are you sure you're not worshipping Satan? Are you sure? Because this seems like the kind of thing that Satan would do, rather than say, I don't know, love thy neighbour, do unto others as you would like people to do to you. Other than saying, I don't know, it's more difficult for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven. It seems like they'll probably just fuck a prostitute.
Yeah, exactly.
And they use taxpayers' money to pay for it. That seems like something the devil would do.
Yeah. But then we've also had this week Demonic Cummings get approached by an MP who has been filmed for a documentary, and he said, I'm getting death threats because of you, and all he said was, get Brexit done. So I thought...
Basically, he said, if you want the death threats to stop, get Brexit done.
So...
And the way he said it, he was like leaning against. Oh mate, I couldn't have been as calm as that. It was a Carl. What's his name? I
can't remember. We'll put it in
Labour MP.
Put it in the text.
He said, I'm getting death threats because of you, and he went, oh well, you know, if you did what I wanted you to do, then it'll be alright. This is a guy who lives in a £1.6 million house.
Can I just say,
a guy who went to private school in Durham.
You've gone on about Christianity and all that kind of stuff, but I've got to say that Demonic Cummings is probably the most evil man on the planet and might actually be Satan himself. So,
that's
and on that note...
That's a good point, actually, because I think Trump is Satan, but he's thick as pig shit.
Yeah.
I mean, he's so stupid that he calls up the president of another country on the record and says, hey, dig up some dirt on my enemy, and on my political rival. Dig up some dirt on my political rival, or I'm going to stop this US military aid coming to you. It's a country that's currently being invaded by Russia.
So,
just to put that into context, boys and girls.
In two areas, yeah.
Russia, who to every Brexiteer is their best mate now.
Yeah. For some reason. So I think Demonic Cummings may actually be Satan himself.
Yeah.
So let's just, on that note, draw this to an end. Our country, one of the most important countries in the free world, is been ruled by Satan himself.
Right, should we pick this up tomorrow in Manchester?
In Manchester, looking forward to seeing both of our viewers there. And
both our viewers, just me and you, we watched the video back.
I've got a friend in Mexico who watches it. I don't think she'll hit.
Anyway, well, I think we should wrap it up there. So, thank you very much, Adam.
See you in Manchester tomorrow.
See you in Manchester.
Thank you very much, my friend.
This video up in time for it to be tomorrow.
Okay.
But
just in case he doesn't get this video up in time, we had a great time in Manchester yesterday. Yes,
in the past. And until next time, have you got any beer left?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Can I give you a little bit of mine? There you go. International cooperation.
There we go.
Cheers.
Here's to the EU.